I mean, I know if you've got teenagers, your kids have at times said things that have hurt your feelings. Children have a very powerful ability to tear us in half with their words. And one of the things that I think that is probably the most hateful thing I've ever heard, but I know I've heard teenagers say it. I hope my children never say it to me because I think it would be so hurtful. But I think that some of you may have heard this from your children. Hopefully you haven't, but you know people whose children will look them in the face and say, "I wish you were dead." Now, that hurts, right? Imagine somebody's child looking, "I wish you were dead. You are nothing but an obstacle in my life. I wish you were dead. You are nothing but the doorstop that's holding me back from what I want to get. I wish you were dead." You imagine the pain of a parent hearing those words. Now you read the story, and what you don't understand a lot of times in reading the story is when the son came up to the father, he effectively said, "I wish you were dead. Because I really want what's coming to me when you die. What you're going to give me when you die is more important than my relationship with you. It's more important than your particular reputation. Because as soon as you give me this money, I'm going to tarnish your reputation. And by giving me this money, outside of it being a part of your will, having died and left it to me, you're showing the whole world that you're really just a man who's facing this type of solidity or senility. You're really showing everybody you're out of your mind. What kind of a parent divides his will before he dies? It's just not done. But the son is impatient. And he's sitting there, and you can imagine the impatience. I really want this money. I'm tired of being under my older brother. I'm tired of this life the way it is. I want to get out. I want to do my own thing. I want to explore the world. I want to be my own man. But Dad's still alive. As long as he's still alive, I can't do it. As long as he's still alive, I can't be my own man. I'm not going to kill him. I'm not that bad. But maybe he'll give me the money. The request of an inheritance before the death of a parent was the height of insult. The father should have taken a reed to his son. And I know we don't know what that is anymore because we've been told by the public school system and everybody else not to spank your kids. Taking a reed to a child is bending them over just and giving it to them. And sometimes they deserve it. And this boy deserved it. He deserved the reed. And you want to know what's great about this story? Jesus is telling this story to the Pharisees. He's telling this story in earshot of the religious elite, and they would have been thinking, what kind of a horrible boy would ask for an inheritance? What type of a terrible young man would do such a thing? He must be the worst. Oh, this is just, that father is going to get him. That father is going to just bring the law and justice and everything down in his head. And then Jesus said, and he gave him the money, and they, what kind of a father would do that? And to them, it's really a assault from the father, isn't it? To them, it's, now Jesus has not only said he's got a son who is prodigal, who wants this bad thing, but the father has been the insult. The father has insulted what he should have done, which was discipline the child. Here's the point, and we'll get there in a minute because we're going to walk through the text. The only person in the story that the Pharisees would have been proud of was the other son. Do you realize that? The Pharisees would have really been proud of the other son because of the way he saw it. That kid asked for money. He went out and squandered his money. The father allowed it to happen. You're both wrong. The only one who's upright is the one who stands there and judges them. Why? Because that's the picture of who the Pharisees were. They stood there and saying, the father and to the children, and to the child. Both of you are unrighteous. So when he asked in verse 12, Father, give me a share of the property that's coming to me, and he divided the property between them, this would have been the height of scandal. Now, verse 13 and moving on. Not many days later, the younger son gathered all he had and took a journey into a far country, and there he squandered his property in reckless living. What did he do? His father divided the property between the two boys. The older would have gotten the majority of the property, which is why the father didn't go broke after this happened. The older would have still gotten a substantially more amount, but the younger got enough that he could sell it off and get the money. That he could effectively, use a modern, he could pawn his father's stuff, get very little bit of money into what it's worth, but he could get enough money to where he had money in his pocket. And as you know, if you've got young children, you put, it's funny saying, I sent Cody to school with lunch money on Friday because we usually put his money on a card that they have to do, but I put it in his pocket and I pleaded with him, please don't buy candy. Please don't buy it. Please buy lunch. Because I know how it is to put money in, and they sell stuff at school, but they really ought not sell anyway, candies and sodas and all kinds of stuff. I said, please use this money for what it's intended to be used for, because I know how tempting it is when you got money in the pocket. It's like burning a hole. Your hand sits there and jiggles it, and the teacher's like, what's that rattling noise? Oh, it's money, and it's burning a hole in my pocket. Well, that's what happened with this boy. He got he had a windfall. The father was very, very rich. The father had a lot, and the son inherited a portion of that lot, and to him it was this great amount, and it began to burn a hole in his pocket. So what did he do? He decided to fulfill all those dreams he'd been having. Remember, the father was in the way. The father was holding him back. The father was the doorstop that was keeping the door closed. Man, I got a bucket of money, and I've got nobody telling me I can't. I'm going out into the world, and I'm going to go absolutely wild, and nobody's going to stop me. Well, guess who stopped him? The money stopped him. Because when you run out of money, all this good, fun stuff that you're excited about, and you know what? Money doesn't last very long if you're squandering it, and that's a word that's used here. It says he went about and he squandered his property in reckless living. The two words there, squandered and reckless, indicating the type of lifestyle he was living. And you can imagine this. One of the things that I think that they should never do, and again, this is kind of a social commentary based on the text, never give a kid going to college his own credit card and talk him out of getting his own. Because it is easy for them to destroy their credit because of what they do. And I tell you, it happened to Jennifer and I. We can testify this. When you get out of school, you don't have any credit. They want you to build credit, and they give you thousands of dollars worth of credit. And you don't realize, you got to pay this back with interest, and you get an amount of debt. Well, this is what happened to the boy. He didn't understand economics. He didn't understand what made his father prosperous was his father's ability and ingenuity in maintaining savings and keeping what he had and keeping it going. He didn't understand any of that. He just decided he was going to live loose and free. And he was going to spend it on anything he could. And he goes out spending it on anything he can and enjoying it. And then one day he reaches into that pocket that just a few days ago was full, and he reaches nothing but lint. And he fills an empty pocket. And what does he do? He goes straight home. No, he doesn't. Why not? Because he has insulted his father. He knows he has insulted his father. If we don't get that part, if we don't get the height of insult that this boy has done, we won't get why he went to the pig field. Because let me tell you something, a good Jewish boy wouldn't have worked with the pigs. Why? Because that's an unclean animal. And it says, it goes on to say, and when he had spent everything, a severe famine arose in that country, and he began to be in need. Oh, now he's hurting. Now he has need. So he went and hired himself out to one of the citizens of that country, who sent him into his fields to feed pigs. Remember I told you earlier who's listening to this, the Pharisees, right? They've already heard a father who does something that is terrible. They've heard of the son who's done something that's terrible. And now the son is in the most terrible condition he could be in. He's in the position